Okay, so about a couple of years ago, we were having strategy meetings at Dish, trying to determine the future of our business. And we're a sales organization first and foremost. So initially, the salesman mentality really comes out, right? It's drive, 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 drive. We're gonna drive CPMs higher, and we're just gonna sell more. In the short term, that's actually pretty good. You'll end up hitting your revenue goals and your revenue targets. But if you think about the industry in its entirety, exactly what we've been talking about, there's an evolution underway. So the answer to the question just can't be status quo, and we'll just try harder. So to that end, we start thinking about what's actually working. Well, we work in TV, so obviously TV from a branding experience works fabulously well. But as we sort of spent the morning talking about Addressable, we start to think about what do advertisers actually care about? And obviously they care about many, many different things, but the argument could be made that they really care about what makes the cash register ring. And for that, we too believe strongly in our Addressable product. So we have a product that works. We have the accountability that comes with Addressable, but what's actually missing? For me, the answer to that question is really scalability and ease of use. So enter programmatic. Not just any programmatic, a true programmatic solution designed exclusively for addressable television, reimagining programmatic TV. So just to pause for 1 second, while we were developing this product, I think we operated somewhat in a bubble. I think we thought we were onto something, somewhat revolutionary, but it really wasn't. I don't think we really hit the breadth until we started thinking about or exchanging emails with the organizers of this event. They started referring to this as a world's first. That is ridiculously exciting for me. Very, very proud to say that. But even further, in other emails, it was described as programmatic TV at this very event 2 years ago, essentially decided that it just could never happen. It was just an impossibility. Well, it did happen. I'm really excited to tell you how we got there. As we've sort of talked throughout these sessions, in the United States, there are over 100 million households that subscribe to traditional TV. That's an astronomical number. So TV is still extraordinarily powerful. But as you can see from what's coming up on the screen here, the evolution has been underway for quite some time. So failure to adapt could essentially be crippling for your business. So further exemplifying the need for change is exactly what we talked about just before lunch, the prevalence of screens, the prevalence of choice for a consumer. You can consume video on, as we all know, any different device. Connected devices, mobile, desktop, connected TVs, traditional TVs. But so in a sense, the lines are blurring incredibly. So as an industry, and really as what we like to consider ourselves thought leaders, we start to think about how do we make it more efficient for people to buy and buy across the entire consumer experience. So again, to help with that, we really believe in programmatic. And again, really excited to talk to you about the journey. And I'll try to hit about 6 points. I'll try to go relatively quickly. So the first leg of our journey is that of Addressable. For us, that's really powering the solution that we're bringing to the market. And if you think about what Addressable brings, again, I know we talked a lot about this, so I don't want to rehash everything, but for us, there's really 3 key elements. The first is data. Now, data, as we sort of talked about, is really the opportunity for us as a data provider. We understand our consumers, so we can marry our subscriber base with Census Bureau information, really create that dynamic targeting capability. Next up is that targeting piece. And for that, we use NVIDIA technology that's embedded in our set-top boxes that allow us to target individual households. Targeting is obviously very, very important, but as we discussed, ROI is probably more so. I'd go one step further than what we talked about this morning, though, and argue that ROI is really about anything that advertisers want to measure against. Could be sales lift, could be brand awareness, could be simplistically the effectiveness of copy. So really anything we can design campaigns to try and help that. So just to pause for 1 second, when people ask me why programmatic, I say because of 3 key things: data, targeting, and ROI. And if you think about those 3 elements, particularly the first 2, it's really a digital environment. It's really the way digital is purchased. So if you think about that and the idea of trying to go programmatically, that really provides an opportunity for success. You're not actually reinventing the wheel. You're trying to get into the digital ecosystem as it exists today. Now, we all know this, but if you ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers of what programmatic actually is. And if you add in the element of TV, you're on a different plane entirely. So for us, what we want to talk about is really the uniqueness of the addressable product and apply it into our definition of what we bring to the market. So the 4 essentials as we see it are, the first is, it has to have automation. I would argue that I'm sure everybody sort of feels the same way. The first has to be automation. And for us, we just really want to expose our inventory to the buying community and allow them to transact in an automated fashion. Next, there has to be premium inventory. And as we've discussed, really don't get it much more premium than TV. Thirdly, there really has to be an element of reliable data. And as we talked about, we as a pay TV subscriber or operator understand our subscribers. We have vast amounts of data on the front end. We take it one step further. We have the vast troves of set-top box data that shows how people view TV. Obviously very powerful. We don't grade our own homework. We pass it off to RentTrack and a third party and actually have them verify it. So for us, that's adding an element of reliability. And fourth and lastly, and I think probably the most important, is targeting. Again, because we're leveraging the addressable technology, we're actually allowing people to target the appropriate audiences and only those audiences. So we have this definition of programmatic. But what do you actually do with it? So, you could think about if you've decided you want to go down the programmatic route, what do you do? Do you build your own product? Do you leverage already existing software? Do you partner with somebody? There's any number of things that you could ask yourself. But one important question is really around business. And for that, do you want to give up control of your distribution? Or do you want to own your distribution? And for us, we want to own our distribution, which means we're really trying to create our own platform. Just by happenstance, I happened to be reading an article in Digiday. It was titled Dr. Boris, the Godfather of Ad Tech. It was a fascinating article about the CEO of European-based IPONWeb. And it was fascinating because it really delved into how they handle RTB, the fact that they're the backbone of programmatic as they are in the digital ecosystem. Hugely powerful tool. So for us, we saw an opportunity to partner with them. But to take it one step further, the reason that digital is infinitely more important for us is because we want to go after digital folks. We want to create a separate sales channel. We don't want to cause sales channel conflict with what we currently run. So for us, it was an opportunity to grow incrementally. Go after those people with digital assets that have video assets that for whatever reason just don't buy TV. So if we can create a platform that allows them to transact the way they typically do today, then we're more apt to have success with the platform. So again, we partnered with IPONWeb to create this solution. So how does it work? Well, first and foremost, if you're talking to traditional TV people, there's so many acronyms in digital, it just really gets confusing. You've got SSPs, DSPs, DMPs, PMPs. It's just incredible. So to try and keep it straight, we refer to our product as really just a central hub. And so the central hub just houses information, houses business data. The business data for us is really looking at how people watch TV. So I know you could debate this, but from our side, people typically watch TV the same way. Historically speaking, they watch TV consistently. So if you watch TV Tuesdays, you typically tune in on Tuesdays. It's not always the case, but it sort of evens out. So if historically people watch TV the same way, we have an opportunity to create a futures market. And that's essentially what we've done. So we have our household information. We have 8 million households within our addressable footprint. We've layered on attributes on top of those households to try and create segments for which people to target. We've layered in demo information. So we have 50 demos. They're predefined segments, but it's an opportunity to at least try and see how we can do this. 50 demos ranging from age, gender, household income, geolocation, and the like. And then we've also added a contextual element. We've added propensity models. So there are 30 propensity models based within the platform. And those propensity models range from those that like action movies, those that like sports or drama or comedy. It's really an opportunity to add that contextual piece. So we have our 8 million subs. And from there, we push that out to the market. And as a first, we're actually selling one impression at a time. We're unbundling, so to speak. We're not selling a group of impressions, selling one impression at a time. Hugely valuable because, again, that's how the digital ecosystem is designed. So don't get too hung up on the real-time piece. The actual auction happens in real time, happens in 200 milliseconds. But because of latency with the way satellite delivers content, we can't serve one impression at a time. So for that, we actually need some kind of trigger mechanism. And for us, that trigger mechanism is 80,000 households. Sounds somewhat arbitrary, but the 80,000 is actually based on statistics. Again, we have 8 million homes. Not all 8 million report back data. So we have roughly a third of homes that report back data. So it's 2.5 million households. It's a huge sample. And if you think of statistics, at 80,000, you're probably apt to get around 20 to 30,000 households that do report back data. And that's a large enough sample to actually project out the rest of it. So our DSP partners are told that they have to hit a minimum threshold of 80,000 households, which will act as the trigger to actually traffic the campaign. So the next two I'm going to bring up at the same time because they're basically the same thing, but there's a reporting element. And that reporting element is being pushed back into the central hub. We're reporting things such as impressions, reach, and frequency. Now, initially that sort of sounds rudimentary, but it's actually what the digital community wants because they want to understand how they're hitting the households. We'll talk about how reporting could sort of increase as we move along, but initially that's exactly what we're talking about. The continuous feedback is important because it's an opportunity to think about how people buy. If you've created a programmatic environment, it's really just a loop. You have reporting coming back, you figure out how you've delivered your campaign, and then you can bid on the appropriate houses again. So it's just one continuous feedback loop. There are four buyer benefits. And when I talk about buyer benefits, not to sort of belabor this point, but again, the idea here is that we want to target the digital community. So the benefits that we talk about are really geared towards that digital buyer. First and foremost, it's opportunity. And it's opportunity because of the scarcity that exists today for premium content in digital. For us, we have that premium content, but the opportunity goes a little further too, because you're now able to air on that 50-inch screen where everybody's furniture is pointed and allow a full screen experience. Next is, and really I think key and important, again, we didn't reinvent the wheel here. We looked at the way the digital ecosystem currently buys, and we essentially mimicked it. So we've created a frictionless environment. So it's just easier for people to transact. They don't have to modify any kind of API connections. Hugely valuable. The next, and I know we're talking about viewability, it's a full screen experience. So unlike digital, there really isn't a viewability concern. There's nothing below the fold, there's nothing embedded in content. It's the full screen. There's no bot traffic because it's TV. So that's hugely valuable for the digital buyer. And lastly, you have that optimized reporting. You understand how your TV campaign is being served. Hugely valuable because you can actually measure it against how digital is operating in the same venue if you're pushing everything by one pipe. So there are different programmatic solutions specifically for TV that are in the market. Again, we think we've differentiated ourselves here. And the differentiation is really driven by these first two. Again, this is an impression by impression offering. It's unbundled the experience as you would typically see it in TV. That's hugely valuable because it actually allows you to control your message further. If you're buying one impression at a time, you can actually determine which households you want to purchase. So if you understand through other data sets that you've hit a household 100 times for sake of argument, you don't have to buy that household again. So you've actually controlled your message in a unique way. Next is, again, there's that targeted household piece. It's essentially a digital buy. You're targeting your audience specifically. Next, again, not to kind of hit this one home again, but it is a full screen experience in your living room. Hugely valuable. This piece is really interesting because I think it really kind of drives home the point. It's not referring to efficient CPMs in the cheapest sense. It's really going back to the first 2 points. You're now actually able to control your budget a little further. You understand the value of what's being brought to you. So again, to go back to it, if you had a household that you needed to hit 100 times, and you're only hitting them 5 times, you can go out and buy that. At the opposite, you don't have to buy every individual one, so you've actually managed to efficiently handle your budget. And lastly, we think it really comes with a holistic view. And it's somewhat of a misnomer, but it's a starting point. And so holistic view for us is really thinking about campaigns in general. Nothing about TV versus digital, but your media campaign and your media mix. So I say misnomer because we haven't reinvented the wheel in terms of what you're getting back in terms of metrics, but it's a starting point. It's actually pushing everything into one space, pushing everything through the one pipe. Now, as with any new product, the biggest question you're going to ever have to answer is, how is this going to change my business? And for us, we think it really comes down to 2 points. The first is, selfishly, from a sales perspective, it helps us to scale our business. As I said, we're going after incremental folks, so we should be able to drive up our revenue stream. That's hugely valuable. But on the flip side, if we truly believe in this product and truly believe that the future is data, targeting, and reporting, if we make it easier for people to buy, we expose advertisers to this medium. So we're really approaching it as we're hitting both the supply side and the demand side at the same time, really looking to scale the product up. And lastly, as we're talking about the evolution of TV. So I would argue that the definition of TV is really changing. It's no longer about cable and satellite delivery or even digital video. It's really about video. I mean, Dish, we see this consistently, and we've actually brought to market our own over-the-top offering in Sling TV, which is essentially an app-based product that allows you to watch TV over the internet. So that's incredibly valuable. So what we're looking to do there is we're looking to create an infrastructure that allows you to buy audiences. And if you bought an audience, we would be able to deliver that audience digitally, on TV, mobilely, wherever they happen to be. Certainly a futuristic look, but you need that infrastructure in place before you can do that. And lastly, I just want to kind of hammer this point home. We think of this as an iterative process. For us, this is the first phase. It's a beta phase. We're testing. We want to see if our ideas make sense. But we think there's an opportunity to think about the evolution of TV and bring in digital assets, bring in digital impressions, which would create a more real-time environment. And lastly, we want to work with advertisers who traditionally use this product, traditionally use Addressable. We want to work with them to understand what other data sets we could bring into this product that would make it more dynamic. How do we onboard additional data and do it in an automated fashion and allow people to buy it more dynamically? In short, as I said, we're against the status quo. This is really about us setting ourselves up for the future. Thank you. Take a seat, okay.
Oh, you don't get off that easy.
Oh.
Thank you very much indeed, James.
My pleasure.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, from the audience to get us going? Okay, in which case I shall start us off. Have you found any particular category or categories of advertisers that have been immediately attracted to these opportunities?
I mean, I think the obvious one is auto. They're continuing to look for ways to buy Addressable and really segment their audiences differently. The auto guys also, they're really trying to onboard additional data sets. So if they look at, digital cookies as an example, it's an opportunity to try and dive into that data to hit them at the household level. Kind of humorously, the other vertical that's really coming in is distilled spirits. And the reason is because you can kind of isolate. We day part this out, so we allow you to buy just prime time or all of the day parts. So over distilled spirits, they can target, in the US, 21 plus, and they can target at prime time level. So they don't have any restrictions. So I found that kind of surprising.
That is very surprising. I actually sit on a European self-regulatory body for alcohol advertising, and I can tell you the European Commission are extremely hot on that. It's self-regulation, same in the States.
Yeah.
But just to delve down into that then, so you've got two very, very specific categories in terms of motoring. What about areas like real estate, online shopping?
We've had online shopping come through, just trying to figure out ways that they could. Again, it's really for the digital community. At first, it was sort of difficult because again, we have predefined segments that we're pushing out to the market, and they were sort of less enamored with that to start with. But then they realized that it really could be used as an extension piece. So really, just kind of hammer home a specific audience and really try to upsell it. So I think in retail specifically, as you get into the holiday season, we're starting to see some traction there. I think there'll be other pieces, even CPG, because it's a heavy opportunity, could be of interest. But in short, we're hoping to work with everybody.
Okay, I mean a question I share a lot with Google is talk about the incremental reach and the heavying up a little bit and reaching some of those elusive light viewers. Could you put some form of number on that? What sort of order of percentage uplift are you seeing in terms of the reach?
I think it really depends on what you're trying to target. So I don't know that there would be an average that we could just sort of throw out there, because in truth, the issue is that, again, depending on your target, certain targets, depending on your footprint, are really going to drive reach even further than you would anticipate. So you're actually going to see a really huge number. But on the flip side, if you refine that target even further, it might be harder to get that reach.
Okay, I mean, you talk about a number of segments, and you're doing a lot of criteria within that demographic and other segmentation. So what is the highest converting segment? What, in terms of what you deliver against what the network stations deliver? So where is your biggest USP in terms of helping, for example, Group M and its clients reach our clients' consumers?
I mean, I would answer that in two ways. I think when we think of programmatic, it's really just an extra tool in our toolkit, right? It's an opportunity to make things easier potentially. But if you're really trying to drive results and you have specific metrics that you're trying to target, the everyday addressable product that we offer is still fantastic. And the reason it's fantastic is because, much like was discussed earlier today, it's a more customized solution. So you're actually bringing forth data sets that you're overlaying to make sure that you can hit appropriate targets. It's not necessarily about, I want to hit this zip code or this geolocation. It's really getting much more granular in who you're trying to target. Okay. So if it is refined, you're more apt to get a lift on it.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Yes, we have one up in the middle. Please say your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Shirley Dennery. I'm from Amdocs. I wanted to know, it was very interesting. I think it's fascinating what you're doing. And as I understand, it's for linear TV. My question is, are you applying any of this at all to Sling TV?
We are in a different sense. We have, today, there are essentially two separate programmatic solutions. One that's designed just for digital and Sling. But the future for this product, and when I say future, I'm talking probably early next year, is we want to bring in that Sling inventory.
Just on that, what percentage of total viewing is the Sling viewing?
So I'm actually not allowed to tell you that.
Good try, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's a product that was launched in January, so the scale is not huge at the moment, though it has ramped up substantially. How's that for vague?
I think we'll let you off with that one. Are there any more questions from the audience? We have one from Daniel in the front here.
Thanks. Daniel from Unity Media, cable operator in Germany. How do you deal with the fact that your targeting is on a household base and not on an individual base? Is that a problem?
It really hasn't been. And that's really because we're able to prove out, to go back to ROI. So that's actually a question we get even from the TV buyers is you're targeting just at the household level. Does that actually work? Well, it does in the fact that depending on your vertical, we have case studies that show you're more apt to see some kind of sales lift or brand awareness based on that household level. So when we bring that to the digital buyer, they certainly would like a more personal experience, but it does have value, and for them to err on that big screen is an opportunity that they don't want to pass up.
More of a comment than a final question. Final.
Okay.
Delighted to hear you talk about video, no longer TV, and we're talking about the big screen, and we're talking about the sort of metrics that advertisers, and we heard Richard Brooks saying very clearly, we want to sell products off shelves.
Yep.
It's about storytelling, it's about the creativity, adding that together. What is going to be the biggest challenge, you think, to you as Dish TV sales going forward in what is a converging but yet fragmenting marketplace?
I don't know. I mean, it's more of an opportunity to continue to try and push the envelope. So again, we believe the future is data and ROI. And so we need to figure out ways that we can bring that to market. And that's really the opportunity that's present with Sling TV, because Sling TV is the TV, mobile, whatever. And really, if you couple that with the traditional TV experience, they're actually two separate markets. The Sling TV is really geared towards millennials, right? So it's a harder to reach audience. So now you've brought together an opportunity where you can just get broader reach again, or a broader audience. So that's probably the future.
James, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please thank James.